Untold secrets of hard work, a devastating story every parent must share now. The clock struck midnight in Cedarville, and something sinister was stirring beneath the town's unassuming surface. In a small, dimly lit workshop at the edge of the forest, an air of mystery hung like a fog. The locals would tell you, if you listened closely enough, you could hear the whispers of machines laboring underground. What were they building? What were they preparing for? This was no ordinary job, it felt like a trap waiting to be sprung. Strange happenings had become the town's bread and butter. Every week, a resident would vanish poof. Just like that. 2 months ago, Mr. Donnelly, a well-respected father of 3, had stepped out for a night walk and never returned. Just his shoes remained, found standing eerily at the edge of the woods. People gossiped about shadowy figures stalking the streets at night, figures dressed in dark overalls, moving with a purpose, their faces obscured by the harsh glow of streetlights. Nobody felt safe anymore, but they were too curious to ignore the tales. With each disappearance, the air thickened with dread, like the smell of rain right before a storm. In the heart of all this chaos stood Clara, the fearless teenage girl with a knack for seeking out the truth buried beneath layers of fear. Her heart raced every time she'd slip out of her window at night, armed only with a flashlight and a notebook that breathed her dreams into life. She was determined to unveil this dark secret and bring the truth to light. Clara spent hours hiding behind trees, spying on the strange figures she saw passing nearby. Their hurried steps echoed ominously in her mind, like the ticking of a countdown clock. As she closed in on the workshop one night, something gleamed in the shadows. A pair of eyes stared back at her. Her breath hitched in her throat, a lump forming as she knew she was inches away from uncovering something profound. But what? And would she live to tell the tale? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Clara's determination surged as she took a step closer, her heart pounding louder with every heartbeat, drowning out the whispers of doubt. The door creaked open a crack, revealing a slice of flickering light and muffled voices behind it. The sensation of cold fear washed over her, tinged with an electrifying sense of adventure. Her fingers trembled at the edge of the doorframe. What lay inside was a riddle wrapped in shadows, an answer that could change everything. But was she ready to face the truth that waited in the dark? The only thing she was certain of was the chilling realization that she was not alone, and whatever was brewing behind that door would shake the very foundations of Cedarville. What awaited her within those walls, where the answers seemed just out of reach? Clara held her breath as the door opened wider, revealing an eerie glow spilling out into the night. The muffled voices grew louder, their words crackling like a broken radio just out of tune. She could hardly hear their meaning, but the tone sounded urgent, filled with a rising tension that made her skin prickle. Taking a cautious step over the threshold, she felt a rush of cold air wash over her. The faint metallic scent of machine oil filled her nostrils. Each beat of her heart echoed in her ears as she entered the workshop, the shadows dancing around her like living spirits. It was more expansive than she had imagined. Rows of towering machinery whirred and clanked rhythmically, illuminated by flickering fluorescent lights. Her instincts kicked in. She ducked behind a large machine that hummed vigorously, its surface slick with grease. From her hiding spot, she peered through the shadows and gasped. There they were, the figures she had been watching from the tree-line. Their backs were turned, busying themselves with the machines, their faces still concealed by hoods and masks. The whispers became clear now, threading through the air like stirring winds. "We're behind schedule," one said, his voice laced with frustration. "If we don't complete the next phase by the end of the month, we risk exposure." "Don't worry," another figure replied, maintaining a calmness that felt out of place. The townspeople are too frightened to ask questions. We'll keep them in the dark. A shiver raced down Clara's spine. She was so close to what seemed like a twisted plot that lay hidden beneath Cedarville's surface. What could they possibly be hiding? As she tried to shift her position for a better view, her foot slipped. Panic shot through her as she nearly toppled over, the machine beside her rattling violently in response to her sudden movement. One of the figures whipped around, eyes narrowing as they scanned the room. Clara held her breath, stilling her trembling body, praying they wouldn't hear her racing heart. The figure stepped toward her hiding spot, their silhouette illuminated in the harsh light as they moved cautiously, scanning the floor. "Did you hear that?" they asked, voice low, rasping. Before she could even consider her next move, a metallic thud reverberated in the final moments of silence, rattling through her very bones. She quickly scrambled to back away, her instincts kicking in with raw survival instinct. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from behind her, light exploding into the air as a panel from the wall fell away, revealing a hidden doorway. Her mind whirled, torn between the danger of being caught and the curiosity piqued by the unexpected opening. The figure turned back and called frantically to the others, "We need to check it out." Clara didn't stay to see what happened next. Instead, she bolted for the newly revealed passageway, her heart pounding against her ribcage like a wild drum. The dark corridor swallowed her whole as she plunged into the unknown, the sounds of chaos behind her fading into a haunting silence. What lay ahead? She could feel the tension in the air, thick as smoke. Was this exit her salvation or a path to deeper peril? The walls seemed to close in around her as she pressed onward, adrenaline surging through her veins, a question igniting her mind. What had she just stumbled into? And then, in the dim light, a shadow loomed ahead. Clara halted, her breath caught in her throat again. "Hello." She dared to call out, her voice frail. But there was no answer. Only the echo of her own uncertainty, the undeniable feeling that she was closer to the truth than she had ever dared to be. Would these dark secrets finally unveil what lay behind Cedarville's sinister whispers? Or would they swallow her whole? Clara's heart pounded like a war drum as she squinted into the shadowy corridor. The dim light flickered, barely illuminating the space around her. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back, but curiosity rooted her to the spot. That shadow in front of her shifted slightly, and a cold chill crept down her spine. Was it friend or foe? "Is someone there?" she repeated, her voice breaking the thick silence. A desperate attempt to grasp hope in the uncertainty. The shadow remained still, the heartbeat of the workshop fading behind her. With a deep breath, she stepped deeper into the corridor, straining to make out details. It felt like a suffocating tunnel, walls narrowing as if they might close in on her. Shadows flickered past her vision, almost taunting. The air was too thick, tinged with fear and the faint smell of burnt wires. Clara moved cautiously, each footstep echoing in the confining space. The sound of metal on metal clanged from the darkness ahead, sending her heart racing. She could hardly hear it through the whirring of machinery, but it felt wrong, like a warning. "What am I doing?" she whispered to herself, her resolve beginning to falter. As she slipped further into the corridor, the light suddenly brightened, revealing walls plastered with photographs. Clara skidded to a halt. They were grainy, mostly black and white, but she recognized the faces. Everywhere she turned, the same few faces peered back at her friends, neighbors, familiar faces from Cedarville. Her stomach turned. Why were they here? Glancing around, she realized that all the photos shared one thing in common: the people looked terrified. As if they were captured in the act of something sinister. Shaky, distorted images caught them leaving the workshop, eyes wide with fear. What had they witnessed? A loud clang echoed behind her, snapping her back to reality. She turned swiftly, pulse racing. The initial rush of adrenaline morphed into cold dread. The shadows pressed closer, and the reality of being trapped washed over her. "Stay calm," she whispered, her voice trembling as she backed away, moving deeper down the corridor. Then, she spotted a small door just off to the side, slightly ajar. A sliver of light escaped, offering a glimmer of hope. Clara slinked toward it, the sound of her raw breathing shattering the eerie silence around her. As she tugged on the edge of the door, it creaked open, revealing a small office cluttered with papers, the bedrock of secrets. Old blueprints and diagrams plastered the walls, marking the workshop's inner workings. What was this place really aimed at? A sudden rustling from behind pulled her attention back. The figure from before, hooded and masked, lurked just down the corridor. Clara's heart skipped a beat, but anger ignited within her. She wasn't going to be hunted down in a place drenched with her town's buried truths. This was her moment. Desperately, she flung open the door wider, searching for any escape. In her peripheral vision, she spotted a large window at the far end of the office. It was her only way out. With courage swelling within her, she sprinted toward it, adrenaline fueling her flight. That's her. The figure yelled behind her, the pitch rising in panic. The cold breeze greeted her as she approached the window, her brain racing. She had to get through, but just as she reached for the latch, the shadowy figure was on her, lunging forward with an outstretched hand. Clara's breath hitched. Would she break free? Or would Cedarville's secrets finally consume her? The moment stretched, the night filled with uncertainty. What lay ahead? The answers she craved, freedom, or the darkness that waited for her? With her heart in her throat, she prepared to fight against the shadows closing in. Clara's fingers slammed against the cold window, heart hammering in her chest. Instinct took over as she swung her body against the glass. The figure behind her was relentless, a force of darkness crashing in. She felt the pressure of its approach, palpable and suffocating. Let me go. She gasped, twisting to see the looming figure just inches away. The glint of its eyes was cold, an unyielding depth that sent a fresh wave of terror cascading through her. Pushing against the latch, she could feel it bind stuck, refusing to budge. With a primal scream, she launched herself at the window again, determined to break through. The figure lunged, grasping at her sleeve, just a breath from capturing her. She felt rough fabric snag on her skin, almost a warning of her impending fate. In desperation, she kicked backward, her foot colliding with the figure's chest. Get away! With a grunt, the figure staggered back, allowing Clara the precious seconds she needed to tear at the window mechanism. The latch finally clicked, relief flooding her. She pushed the window wide open, the gust of cold night air wrapping around her like a shroud of safety, but before she could vault through, a hand shot out, grabbing her ankle. Clara stared down into the masked face, feeling the shrill scream bubble up in her throat. She clutched the window frame, her grip trembling against the terror that surged through her veins. In that moment, she hesitated. Why? What if this figure wasn't merely a captor? What if it was trying to protect her from something worse? Her mind raced as the memories of the photographs flashed before her, the fear on the faces, the sense of danger they all shared. Clara couldn't determine if the shadows concealed evil or desperation. No! She cried, kicking free and yanking her leg away just in time. The figure tumbled back, giving her the moment she needed to leap out into the abyss of the night. The ground met her feet with a muted thud, adrenaline thrumming through her as she rolled into the grass. Gathering herself up, she glanced back at the window. The masked figure was now just a silhouette, a haunting image in the moonlight. For a brief heartbeat, their eyes met, and she saw something within them, a hint of warning. Clara darted across the yard, her heart still racing, the shadows of truth enveloping her. She needed answers, either from this figure or from the workshop itself. Why had Cedarville hidden this? Louder footsteps echoed behind her, mixing with the distant machinery that hummed ominously. Clara sprinted towards the thick woods at the edge of the workshop grounds. A tangle of trees loomed ahead, promising both peril and refuge. She had no time to waste and no choice but to plunge deeper into the night. Branches snagged at her clothes like fingers, tearing at her as she pushed through. Her breath came in ragged gasps, sweat mingling with the cool air. She was fueled by a blend of fear and determination, the burning need to uncover the truth about Cedarville and herself, but the woods were vast and unpredictable, whispers of the unseen causing her heart to race even faster. Just as clarity broke through the chaos, Clara stumbled into a tiny clearing bathed in moonlight. There, in the center, stood a single weathered signpost, marked with familiar names: Cedarville, abandoned, lost, and one that sent a chill down her spine: forgotten. Was this a warning? Or a clue? Her heart thudded violently, uncertainty wedging itself between her racing thoughts. Before she could assess further, a rustle echoed from the adjacent trees. Clara's eyes widened, every nerve in her body screaming for her to run. But instead, she held her ground, breath catching in her throat. What waited for her out there? Answers or dangers lying in the dark? With uncertainty swirling, Clara braced herself for the next confrontation. She had uncovered something about Cedarville, but the full weight of what lay ahead was still shrouded in darkness. The night wasn't finished with her yet. The rustling grew louder, snapping Clara's focus like a tight rubber band. Her instincts screamed for her to bolt, but her feet remained planted in the soft earth, heart pounding in tandem with the fading sounds of those heavy footsteps behind her. "Don't move," she whispered to herself, realization clawing at her chest. There was something more dangerous than the figure back at the workshop lurking in these woods. Shadows flickered, and Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. The rustling stopped abruptly. A figure emerged from the tree-line, clad in a dark coat that blended seamlessly with the night. Clara squinted, the fear tightening her throat like a noose. She was ready to flee, but what if it was someone who could help her? "Clara?" The voice was low and gravelly, but she recognized it. "Sam." She let out an incredulous breath, barely able to comprehend the sudden twist of fate. Sam had been her only ally in Cedarville. They'd spent hours poring over old documents about those mysterious disappearances, cautioning but bold in their curiosity. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his gaze darting around them. Fear was evident in his eyes, matching the trepidation Clara felt. They had both touched the secrets of Cedarville, and now they stood on the precipice of something far more dangerous. "The workshop, it's bad, Sam. That figure, it was trying to take me. I think it knows something important." Panic surged within her. "There's something worse out here, I can feel it." "Yeah, I know," he said, glancing nervously into the shadows. "But we need to leave. Now." Before she could respond, a growl split the air, deep and vicious. It echoed through the trees like thunder, setting her nerves ablaze. Clara's spine stiffened. She instinctively stepped closer to Sam, who stood protectively at her side, eyes wild and scanning their surroundings. "It's not just the masked figure," he said, voice trembling slightly. "I've seen things that roam these woods at night, looking for prey." His expression shifted from fear to determination. "We can't stay here. We have to keep moving." Clara's heart raced as the chilling reality settled over her. Questions swirled through her mind. What had Sam seen? What lay hidden in these woods that was worse than the lurking figure from the workshop? "Follow me," he urged, breaking her thoughts. "There's a path. We can avoid the worst of it if we stick together." He turned, taking her hand and leading her further into the woods. The trees closed in like a living wall, their branches clawing at her as they brushed past. She followed blindly, each step accompanied by the sound of broken twigs beneath their feet, a reminder of their vulnerability. As they hurried down the narrow path, Clara struggled to adjust to the oppressive dark. The air was thick with an uneasy silence, punctuated only by the distant rustling of leaves. Then the growl echoed again, closer this time, making the hairs on Clara's arms stand on end. "Faster!" Sam hissed, and they ran harder. The world ahead was a blur as Clara fought to keep up. But just as she thought they might escape, the underbrush burst open, revealing three figures blocked their path. Their eyes glowed, reflecting the moonlight like feral predators hungry for a catch. Fear coursed through Clara's veins. These were not just lost souls but something far more sinister. "Run!" Sam shouted, dragging Clara back the way they had come. But as they turned, the growl erupted again, vibrating through them as darkness closed in. How had they stumbled into this nightmare? What had Cedarville kept hidden, and were they about to become part of its tragic story? Clara's breath hitched as she prepared herself for another desperate escape, but this time, shadows weren't their only threat. Would she survive the night to uncover the truth, or had she already stepped into the realm of the forgotten? Stay tuned. The darkness seemed to stretch around them, a living entity hungry for their fear, and Clara felt it slither up her spine. Sam's grip was like iron, a tether to her only hope. The ominous growl echoed, reverberating through the trees, urging them faster as the figures closed in. "Where do we go?" she gasped, her breaths coming in ragged spurts, desperation clinging to her voice. "Follow me," Sam urged, darting left before a shrill scream pierced the night, slicing through the tension. Clara froze for a split second, processing the horror that permeated the air. She'd heard that sound before, one of the missing, perhaps. Or worse, Clara. Now. He yanked her with a force that jolted her back to reality. They plunged deeper into the woods, the figures behind them now more shadows than flesh, stalking with a supernatural grace. They barreled through the underbrush, branches snapping against them like angry fingers trying to cling on as they fled. Each rustle in the undergrowth sent Clara's heart racing anew. Were the figures gaining on them? Would no one escape this nightmare? Sam glanced back, his face a mask of terror. We have to find a way to distract them. His eyes flitted towards a gnarled old tree, its trunk split and hollowed. What was he thinking? "Clara, into that tree. They won't see us if we hurry." Without a second thought, Clara followed him into the darkness of the knotted trunk. The air inside was cold, clinging to her skin like ice. They crouched in silence, listening to the sounds of their pursuers. The growling morphed into a series of low, guttural whispers, a chorus of malice. Bits of conversation drifted past her ears, indecipherable yet heavy with intent. "What are they?" Clara whispered, the knot in her stomach tightening as she dared to glance at Sam, whose face was pale and taut. "Something unnatural," he breathed, trembling slightly. "Things that wouldn't let the truth escape this place. They're meant to guard it, they'll kill anyone who tries to find out." Fear gnawed at her insides. "We need to find a way out of Cedarville, Sam. Now. We can't be here." A sudden burst of movement outside sent both of them into heightened alert. The whispers grew louder and more frantic, and Clara felt her pulse race in time with the rising tension. A figure collided against the tree, the impact resonating through the hollow, rattling her bones. "Did you hear that?" Sam hissed, eyes wide. "They're searching for us." Her heart felt like it was going to explode as she readied herself to bolt again. But just as they started to slip out, the figures froze. Their eyes, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, studied, measured like prey, and then, a flicker of recognition glinted in the eyes of one of the shadows. Something washed over her, cold and foreboding. They hadn't just come for a hunt, they were waiting for something. Or someone. "Sam, I think one of them knows me," she gasped, her instincts screaming to flee, but curiosity gripped her too. Was it possible? Had Cedarville left an imprint on her, something they could sense? No. Sam's grip tightened around her wrist. "You can't let them pull you in. They will twist your mind." Before she could comprehend his warning, the figure stepped closer, a woman, dress tattered, but eyes shining unnaturally bright. "Clara." The name rolled off her tongue like a prayer and a curse. "Run!" Sam shouted again, dragging her, pushing past the woman who seemed frozen in place, a spectral figure etched in her mind. They burst out from the mouth of the tree, but the forest was alive, shifting like a horrible dream. The growl swelled into a cacophony as they sprinted blindly again. Clara's thoughts scrambled. What did the woman want? Why did she know her name? Was Cedarville a trap set for her all along? With every heartbeat that thundered in her ears, Clara realized they were diving deeper into a darkness that might swallow them whole. But just as they reached the edge of a clearing, they collided into something invisible, an unseen barrier, jolting them back. What lay ahead? Would the truth, so desperately sought, come at the price of their lives? Clara's heart threatened to drown in panic as she turned back to Sam, whose own eyes were filled with dread. Here in this liminal space, torn between terror and revelation, everything hung by a thread, and from the shadows, the figures began to gather. What would they reveal? What fate awaited them as they stood on the brink of something unimaginable? Stay tuned. The air crackled with tension as Clara and Sam faced the looming figures. Shadows writhed in the darkness, twisting like smoke, and Clara felt as if the forest itself was holding its breath. The unseen barrier pulsed against her, dark and cold, a silent testament to the power that lurked beyond. "What do we do?" she whispered, her voice barely a breath. Sam's expression faltered, vulnerability flashing across his face in an instant. "I don't know. I didn't think they would." A low growl emerged from the throng, sending a shiver down Clara's spine, and she pressed herself closer to Sam, their bodies unwittingly forming a fragile shield against the impending doom. "They can smell our fear," Sam breathed, panic creeping into his voice. "We need to show them we're not afraid." "Easier said than done," Clara shot back, her heart hammering violently. She searched for their escape route while voices in the shadows grew louder, blending into an ominous chant. Suddenly, the one who knew her name, stepped forward, her presence magnified by the chill in the air. "Clara," she whispered again, the words spilling from her lips like a dark promise. "What does she want?" Clara muttered, her chest tightening as she met the woman's impossibly bright eyes, which shimmered like twin stars, pulling at something deep within her. The figures moved closer, a wave of malice washing over them. Just as Clara felt Sam's hold slacken, she caught the faintest glimmer of something else, hope flickering in the darkness. "Clara!" Sam shouted, breaking through the hypnotic glare cast by the woman. "We'll have to fight through them." "Fight?" The absurdity sent a spark of defiance through her. "How?" In a sudden moment of clarity, Clara remembered stories she had heard as a child, tales of light overcoming darkness, of bravery triumphing over sheer terror. "Maybe if we stand together, if we face them." Sam's eyes flicked back to the thicket of shadows. "Like a line of defense?" "Exactly. As long as we keep moving forward." She took a deep breath, summoning what courage was left within her as she shouted, "Get back!" The growls surged in response, a dissonant roar that resonated through the clearing, shattering the night. The chant quickened, as if feeding on her resolve, and Clara felt a fire ignite within her. She couldn't let fear consume them. Without thinking, Clara lunged forward, yelling at the top of her lungs. "We won't be your prey." Time seemed to slow. For a tense moment, silence fell, heavy and loaded. The figures paused, their eyes narrowing, assessing her unexpected boldness. Then, with a snap as quick as lightning, the barrier rippled like water, and Clara flew through, pulling Sam along with her. They tumbled forward, landing hard on the damp earth of the other side. As they rose, breathless but alive, the landscape shifted. They stood now in a different part of the woods, shadows lifting just enough for moonlight to filter through. Clara looked back, heart pounding, dreading what lurked behind them, but as the shadows receded, she realized they had not followed. What just happened?" Sam gasped, confusion etched on his face. Clara could scarcely draw a breath, her mind racing. They were free for now, but that didn't erase the questions burning in her thoughts. Why did that woman know her? What connection did she have with Cedarville? And then, emerging from the trees, a figure stepped into the moonlight. Not the tattered woman, but a man, tall and slender, with eyes that glinted with knowledge and logs of power. "You think you escaped?" he called, his voice smooth but filled with contempt. "You merely scratched the surface of what lies beneath." Clara felt a chill race down her spine. They had entered a deeper layer of terror hidden in Cedarville. What awaited them in this twisted realm? What monstrous truths lay just beneath the surface, waiting to erupt? As the man advanced, the trees around them began to shudder, like a great beast awakening from slumber, shivers of anticipation cascading through the air. They hadn't escaped at all. No, not yet. What horrors lay in wait as they uncovered the dark legacy of Cedarville. Stay tuned. The man's presence loomed over them, suffocating. Clara's heart raced, each beat amplifying the electric fear sparking in her veins. She could sense the ancient power radiating from him, as if he were woven from the fabric of the forest itself. This was no ordinary man, he was a harbinger of darkness, a keeper of secrets she wasn't meant to uncover. Who are you? Clara managed to stammer, gripping Sam's arm tightly, her fingers trembling. Such a naive question, he mused, a twisted smile creeping across his face as he took another step closer. I am Alaric, the warden of Cedarville, and you are in my realm now. The name sliced through the silence like a knife. Clara gasped, memories of whispered warnings about Alaric's reign darting through her mind like fireflies. It was said he had once been a guardian, now turned into the very menace that plagued the town. What do you want from us? Sam demanded, his voice steadier than Clara felt. Alaric's laugh echoed, filling the clearing with a chill. What do I want? I want to know how you found the strength to breach the barrier. Not many dare to stand against the shadows. Clara felt the weight of the dark trees around them, their gnarled branches arching like skeletal hands. They were trapped in a ring of dread, a prison guarded by a monster who thrived on fear and uncertainty. Let us go. Clara shouted, trying to inject determination into her voice. We don't have to be here. Alaric only raised an eyebrow in amusement, his eyes glinting like daggers. You can run, but you do not yet understand. This is deeper than you think. You are part of a cycle, a legacy intertwined with the history of this place. And I'm afraid there are things you must confront before you can leave. What do you mean? Sam's voice broke through Clara's thoughts, a thin thread of hope clinging to his words. Your connection to Cedarville is stronger than mere chance, Alaric said, stepping forward as if drawing them into his dark narrative. Much blood has been shed here. Blood that belongs to you. The powers that once protected this land now thirst for reckoning. A strong wind swept through the trees, driving a shiver down Clara's spine. Suddenly, her mind flared with visions, fragments of the past. The blood, the terror. Families scattered in the dark as shadows lunged, grief mingling with anger, powerful yet fragile. Stop! Clara shouted, her voice raw. This isn't right. Oh, but it has always been. Alaric's gaze pierced her. And you must face the truth. Only then can you find what you are really looking for. Before she could respond, the forest surged around them, the landscape swirling in a tide of blackened memories. Clara felt herself being pulled backward, deeper into the woods, the air thickening with despair. Sam! She yelled, reaching for him, but the darkness began to swallow him, stretching their connection to an unbearable tautness. Clara! Sam's eyes widened in panic, fear reflected in their depths as he grasped at the dissipating shadows. Don't let go. She'd never known such fear, a primal instinct beating against the storm of the unknown. I want tea. She screamed, battling against the darkness. Suddenly, sparks of light erupted around them, illuminating the encroaching gloom. They floated like stars above their heads. Clara felt a warmth rising within her, igniting a flicker of hope in the darkness. Embrace it! Alaric shouted, the shadows swirling in discord around him. What do you fear the most? Let it come. You cannot escape what you are destined to face. Clara's heart raced as she contemplated his words. It was true, the shadows held a reflection of her deepest fears, a reminder of the darkness she had tried to forget. But she had to confront it, not flee. With renewed determination, she pulled Sam closer, braced herself, and shouted, we will not let fear define us. As the light surged around them, the shadows recoiled, but Clara felt the pressure mounting, a storm brewing. What truths would manifest from the depths of their darkest fears? What price would they pay to reclaim their power, as the winds howled, the forest pulsed with anticipation? Would they survive the coming storm, or would the past consume them whole? A darkness loomed, and Clara knew their fight had only just begun. The surge of light enveloped Clara and Sam, but it was too late to think of escape. Alaric's twisted grin widened, revealing a menace that entwined with the spiraling shadows. Clara felt their world tilt. A white glare filled her vision, and suddenly they were standing in a clearing bathed in stark moonlight, the oppressive weight of Alaric's presence lingering like a storm cloud. "Welcome to the heart of your fears," Alaric's voice slithered through the air. His form seemed hazy, shifting like smoke. "This is where your journey truly begins." The forest transformed into a visual cacophony, merging memories with nightmares. Faces of people Clara recognized twisted in anguish flitted before her. Her grandmother, pale and pleading, reaching out for something just beyond her grasp, childhood friends, eyes hollow, shadows creeping ever closer. Clara stumbled, the ground beneath her cracking like thin ice. "Stop it!" she shouted, shaking her head as if she could dislodge the visions. "This isn't real." "Oh, but it is," Alaric taunted, advancing with predatory grace. "These are the echoes of your lineage. The fear of what happened here bleeds through your blood. The secret you keep buried shut up." Sam's voice cut through the shadows, a fierce barrier against the encroaching dread. "We're not afraid of you. Fear is a natural response, young man. One that protects," Alaric continued, his eyes glinting with a twisted eagerness. "But you'll learn soon enough that sometimes it's also the scourge of our hearts. Embrace it, and you might just find the truth." With a sweeping motion, Alaric conjured swirling shadows, forming shapes before them. They danced like specters, weaving the history of Cedarville right in front of their eyes, fires flickering, screams cascading down the night, generations battling darkness and lost. Clara's breath hitched. The images gripped her, pulling her into memories she had never lived yet felt intimately familiar. A child lost in the woods, her scream lost to the dark. A tree with twisted roots, soaked with regrets. "Why? Why show us this?" Clara cried, desperate to break the chilling connection. "Because," Alaric hissed, "only through understanding can you break the cycle. Can you learn what must be sacrificed?" The flashes grew more intense. Clara felt herself losing ground, no longer sure where she stood. The shadows whispered their vile secrets, chilling her every nerve. "Sam!" She reached for him instinctively, her voice piercing the incoming storm. But as she turned, a shadow engulfed Sam, his form twisting and draining away. "Clara!" he yelled, voice cracking as he fought against the grasp of darkness clutching at him, a marionette tangled in its strings. "No! I won't lose you!" Clara screamed, desperation washing over her, anchoring her to reality. "That's the question, isn't it?" Alaric mused, stroking his chin, the shadows swirling around him with a sinister glee. "What lengths will you go to save him? Will you confront your legacy?" Clara's heart thundered in her chest. The fear threatened to consume her whole, but a flicker of defiance ignited deep within. She thought of the stories of her family, woven with both light and dark. Would she stand idle or fight back? Together, she whispered fiercely, gathering the warmth around her, reaching for Sam with all her might. "We can face this. We are stronger than you think." In that moment of unity, their connection sparked, and light spilled from their clasped hands, igniting the darkness, pushing back against the shadows as Alaric's expression faltered, eyes wide with surprise. But even as they took a stand, they knew this was just a battle in a greater war. A war of legacy, of intertwining fates. "Let us uncover the truth." Clara roared into the darkness, the ground trembled beneath them, vibrating with the intensity of their struggle. Would their fight yield answers, or was the past about to unleash horrors that could break them both? As the forest roared, shadows shrieking against the light, Clara realized they were just beginning to scratch the surface. And like it or not, their journey into the heart of Cedarville's darkness awaited. What secrets lay buried, and could the bond of their courage withstand the horrors yet to come? The atmosphere crackled with tension, the remnants of the past swirling around Clara and Sam like storm clouds. Alaric stood before them, a figure embodying the dark history of Cedarville, his twisted smile a warning that no retreat was coming. The shadows behind him seemed hungry, stretching and pulsing, as if longing to consume anything that dared to challenge their reign. Face your fears. Alaric boomed, laughter trailing off into a chilling echo. Only then can you hope to escape this terrible web woven through your veins. The shadows swirled, morphing into nightmarish visions people Clara loved, faces she recognized, twisted in anguish. Their cries for help echoed in her ears, battering her resolve. The weight of despair bore down, but Clara felt a flicker of defiance ignite inside her. She had come too far to succumb to fear. Enough! She shouted, voice steady despite the tempest around them. She took Sam's hand tightly. Together, we can face this. The luminous connection buzzed between them, a lifeline of hope that anchored them against the encroaching shadows. Clenching her jaw, Clara raised her chin defiantly at Alaric, who surged forward, drawn to their bond like moths to a flame. Do you think your light can protect you? He sneered, his voice low and menacing, pulling the shadows tighter around them. Light and truth can conquer darkness. Clara shouted back, determination flooding her veins. As Alaric lunged, shadows lashed out like kraken tentacles. Clara braced herself, channeling her fear into strength. We are not afraid. They shouted together in unison, feeding off each other's bravery. Their voices merged into a siren call that echoed through the clearing. Suddenly, Clara felt a surge, a pulse of warmth filled the air, radiating from their clasped hands. Now! She urged. In that moment, Clara and Sam directed every ounce of hope they had into an unseen force that erupted like a star from their hands, shooting through the darkness. The blinding light shot toward Alaric, illuminating the twisted terrain around them. The shadows shrieked, retreating from the burning truth that dared to dismantle their grip. The glowing essence surged forth, having drawn upon every moment of courage and resolve accumulated over their harrowing night. The brightness wrapped around them, enveloping the figures like a protective cocoon. Alaric staggered back, glaring, his form flickering in the violent luminosity. You cannot hold us. He spat, but the shadows crumbled in his presence, unraveling what once felt impenetrable. In a dazzling flash, Clara glimpsed the truth etched into the very fabric of the world around them, a luminous map linking their fates to Cedarville's legacy. She saw the shackles of fear shatter, saw families freed from the grip of darkness. The stories of those lost, buried beneath weighty memories, intertwined with hers, they needed to be released. Let the past go. Clara cried, feeling the weight lifting. Their words cascaded like a waterfall, resonating through the darkness, shattering the chains that bound it. Clara and Sam bore their voices forward, each shout unraveling the fabric of Alaric's domain. The shadows writhed in agony, caught in the explosion of light. Clara's heart raced, freedom just a heartbeat away. Alaric's form twisted and howled, you are a part of this. You cannot escape your fate. But as he spoke, the light consumed him, and the shadows dissolved into thin air, like smoke fading in the dawn. In one final eruption, the remaining shadows dissipated, and Clara and Sam found themselves standing alone in the clearing, the world transformed. The air felt lighter, a whisper of morning reaching out to touch them. They looked around, hope blooming in their chests. Freed from the burden of fear, they saw Cedarville anew, a town waiting to heal. With hands still clasped, they turned toward the rising sun. Let us share the truth, Sam said, a grin breaking across his face. Clara nodded, relief washing over her. They defaced fears together, forged a bond of resilience. They knew the journey wasn't over, but they were ready to confront whatever came next hand in hand, and as they walked out of the woods, the whispers of Cedarville faded into a gentle breeze, leaving behind a new beginning filled with possibilities. Now, it was time for every resident to share the stories, to connect, to remember those lost, and to embrace the light of truth that had finally pierced the veil of darkness. If they could rise, together, then so could Cedarville, thriving under the canopy of hope. The echoes of the past would guide them towards the promise of a brighter tomorrow. As the first rays of light broke through the trees, Clara's heart swelled with determination. No more secrets, no more shadows. Their fight had forged a legacy of courage and compassion. Now, it was their turn to tell that tale, and now, you need to take action. Hit that subscribe button immediately so you don't miss the next thrilling stories coming your way. Smash that like button now, your support feeds the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this jaw-dropping conclusion. And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this epic ending. Don't wait another second to show your support. Your next adventure awaits.